So you say that MPs are effectively nobodies. They have become irrelevant within this system. You also suggest that cabinet ministers no longer have the kind of power that they once had. The days of strong ministers, I'm thinking of someone like an Alan McKechnie or Herb Gray, folks of that ilk, or Don Mazinkowski as well,
sure,
like with Maroney.
Or go back further, C.D. Howe.
C.D. Howe. Those days are gone. What's happened to the cabinet minister? Why don't cabinet ministers have the kind of heft, perhaps, that they once had?
Well, it's sad, first of all, because getting into cabinet is one of the main instruments of party discipline. Right? That's how caucus members are kept in line, is they'll suffer any abuse and any humiliation for years on end, because they say, if I just endure this, someday I'll get into cabinet. And then they get into cabinet and they find that they're basically still nobodies. They're just nobodies with a car and driver. The real key index of this is if you look at what's happened to the size of cabinet. It's not the be all and the end all of this, but it's certainly an indicator. We used to have cabinets. Sir John A. Macdonald governed with 13 cabinet ministers. Kenzie King fought a depression and a world war with 16. Lester Pearson built the modern welfare state with, I think it was maybe 20, 22. And now recent times we've been up near 40. It's vastly large. It's the largest cabinet in the Western world, democratic world.
Why so many?
Well, because we're not using cabinet to govern. We're using cabinet to represent. Representation is supposed to be the job of the parliament.
But it's also the job of the cabinet minister. Cabinet minister is supposed to represent something. Are they not?
Yeah, to a point. It's always been thus. Okay, you had to represent the different language groups, etc. I'm just saying you can take things too far. And 40 cabinet ministers, if you look around the world, is too far. Most countries, like the OECD average, is 19. So there's a balancing out there, and we've allowed the balance to slip out of whack, where we're not looking at what is an effective body with effective ministers to govern the country. And by effective ministers and by an effective body, I mean a body that is itself also something of a check on the prime minister. We have cabinet government as an alternative to one-man rule. And so in a properly functioning cabinet system, the prime minister may not be the classic idea of first among equals, but nevertheless, he has to take into account the views and roles of the other cabinet ministers. And he can't just run roughshod over them. He's got to think, okay, if I do this, cabinet minister A is going to be really upset. He may even leave cabinet, so I can't really do that. Nevertheless, if I back off too from that cabinet minister B is going to be sad and upset. So I've got to find some way to balance between them. That's part of the art of governing, is finding these balances. What's happened is, because the cabinet has grown so large, because it's ceased to become a functioning body as a group, anybody who's ever sat in a committee knows once you get past about 12, it really starts to get pretty unruly and hard to get anything done. I cannot find a picture of the Canadian cabinet in session in recent decades. I think they put out a kibosh. You cannot publish this because it would look like what it is. It would look ridiculous. So collectively, it ceases to be functional. And individually, the ministers come and go at such rapidity. They have these invented titles that don't have any enduring relevance. A lot of times there's overlap between them, so it's unclear who's really responsible for which file. The prime minister just basically ignores them. Even the most senior cabinet ministers, it's quite plaintive. You read the memoirs of ministers in the Justin Trudeau cabinet.
Bill Morneau,
the finance minister, Marc Garneau, the foreign affairs minister, Jody Wilson-Raybould, the justice minister and attorney general. These used to be positions of some renown. And the theme that runs through them is the prime minister had no use for my advice. I couldn't even get a meeting. The exception would be Jody Wilson-Raybould, who had all too many meetings with him because he was trying to lean on her to interfere in a criminal prosecution. But generally, the theme you hear, and this is not just those three, but other ministers, is the prime minister had no use for my advice. I was just basically there as a figurehead. And concomitant with that, we've seen the growth of the prime minister's office. The prime minister's office now is a staff of 120. Again, I would make an argument it's the largest comparable body in any parliamentary democracy. And that's where real power lies now, is with the prime minister's staff, with the prime minister's office and the privy council office, which are the senior bureaucrats. It's not with the elected cabinet ministers.
You've been listening to a clip of In Bed with the Elephant with me, your host, Adrian Harewood. Be sure to check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And please be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast and write a review. We love hearing from you.